Hey guys, Xander here with another Alpha Strike video, and today we're talking Modern Lite. For those of you who are new to the Modern Lite format, there's going to be a link to an introduction video below in the comments section. There you're going to find a brief introduction into the rules and just a general kind of guideline to the Modern Lite format. So if you're interested, check that out. It's a great way to get started with the Modern Lite format. Anyways, on to what you're here for today. We are working on a Modern Lite Deck Tech. Today's Deck Tech is featuring, it's a 2-card combo. Used to be pretty, it was very potent in the format that was known as Extended. Since the Modern Lite format has been, or rather Modern was formed, this 2-card combo kind of took a back seat when one of those pieces was banned. Last year, that ban was removed for one of those pieces, and that made its way back into the Modern card pool. But for Modern Lite, since we don't have a banned list, we've been able to kind of play with this little, again, 2-card combo through a different couple various different types of shells. Today, we're going to kind of expand upon the shell that we formed for that. Anyway, as we get started with it, let's jump into the namesake of the deck, the Thopter Sword. For the Thopter Sword, we have Thopter Foundry, a Shards of Alara card that reads, pay 1, sacrifice a non-token artifact, and you create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying. And you also gain 1 life. Now, our other card, Sword of the Meek, it gives that creature +1/+2 for the equip cost of 2. But if we read further down in its text line, we'll see a little tidbit that says whenever a 1/1 creature comes into play under your control, you may return Sword of the Meek from the graveyard to play and attach it to that creature. So the way the combo works, you pay 1, you sacrifice the sword. When that token comes into play, it creates a trigger for the Sword of the Meek that is in the graveyard. Sword of the Meek comes back into play, attached to that 1/1 Thopter that you just created, and you can rinse and repeat for the cost of 1 mana. Now, there are certain ways you can expand upon that. You can go anywhere. You can go infinite with some other combo pieces. You can also just use that as a little bit of a tool to grind out blockers, attackers. There's a lot of different ways you can apply that to your game plan. Now, for us, with our shell, we've added a couple other cards to kind of help us further our game plan along. Lantern Insight is a card that it makes both players play with the top card of their library revealed. From there, you can not only gain information of your deck, but you also gain information from the top of your opponent's deck. From there, you can see kind of the lines of play that you need to take offensively and defensively. It kind of gives you, again, information of what basically is going to be in their hand moving forward. Codex Shredder, it allows you to tap and put the top card of target player's library into their respective graveyard. Now, there's 2 ways you can use this. One, you can use it on your opponent's library to manipulate the top of their library and kind of control their draws. Second way you can use it is to manipulate your draws. Since some of our cards like to find their way in the graveyard, we can use that to filter through our deck, possibly putting that Sword of the Meek in our graveyard and allowing us to further our game plan. The other card you're going to see there, Ghoul Caller's Bell, it works just like the Codex Shredder, except it does both players' library at the same time. Sometimes you want to be able to attack both libraries without during that same draw step, either yours or theirs. So we've added that card as essentially the 4th Codex Shredder, but again, its use is just slightly different. The fact that we get to activate that on both players' libraries. Next, we're going to kind of add a little bit of more of a control element to our deck. Ghost of Prison, it helps, not only does it tax our opponent, but it also potentially slows down our opponent's deck. Our deck is not fast. It's going to be more of a grindy deck. So we want to be able to play a little bit of the control role. We control the top of their library. We also want to control the speed at which they're able to deploy their threats and attack us, which Ghost of Prison does a really good job. Also, we have the Aether Grid. The Aether Grid allows us to tap 2 of our artifacts and deal 1 point of damage to either a target creature or player. Early game, that's going to allow us to control their board. They got some small creatures out early. We're able to attack those creatures, keep our board cleared, and allow us to further our board. Late game, we can use that to finish off our opponents just by tapping a few of our artifacts, and instead of pointing at their creatures, we point it straight to their face. So again, those are two enchantments that we are able to fill into our control world that we're looking to play. Next, we're going to find 2 more combo pieces. Now, the thing about these combo pieces, they can help further our game plan in a few different ways. Ironworks, we sacrifice an artifact and it produces 2 colorless mana. With the Sword of the Meek and Thopter Foundry out, this allows us to go infinite in gaining life and producing 1/1 Thopters. Mirror Retriever has to be involved in that combo. There has to be 2 Mirror Retrievers, as well as the Ironworks, Thopter, and Sword of the Meek. The way that works is we sacrifice a Mirror Retriever for 2 mana. Mirror Retriever triggers, and it targets an artifact in your graveyard to return to your hand. As long as there's another Mirror Retriever in that graveyard, you can continually loop those Mirror Retrievers, and that'll allow you just to continually filter through your deck potentially and generate that mana. So again, we can use that to go infinite on our thing. Also, we can use it with some of our other cards to help draw into our deck and filter our deck out. Let's take a look at a few of those cards. Chromatic Star and Chromatic Sphere, they allow us, again, to draw through our deck, but with the Ironworks out, we can sacrifice those, generate 2 colorless mana, and also draw a card off of their enter the graveyard triggers. This is nice for, again, just producing a lot of colorless mana early and filtering through our deck as quickly as possible. Terrarion, it serves the same purpose in its sacrifice trigger, but also, same with the Star and the Sphere, we're able to generate some other colors of our mana pool that we're going to need to cast some of our spells. Mostly, again, we're fairly colorless, but we have a blue and a white need for our Thopter Foundry. We have a white need for our Ghostly Prison. We have a red need for our Aether Grid. Wellspring, again, it functions in the fact that it can draw a card upon playing. We can sacrifice it to Thopter Foundry to create a 1/1 and draw another card. We can also sacrifice it to our Ironworks to generate that 2 extra mana and draw that card. Also, we can tap it with another artifact to deal 1 point of damage using that Aether Grid. Mishra's Bauble, similar to the Wellspring. It serves a lot of different functions, allows us to see that top card of that opponent's library, draw a card, typically on a hand where maybe we only have 1 land but we have a Bauble. It increases the ability to keep that hand for the fact that it's going to replace itself, give us some information, and hopefully draw us into another land or another cheap spell like the Star or Sphere, which is again just going to continue to help get us to our next game plan, our next level in this Magic. Next, we are going to round it out with a couple spells. We've got Fabricate. That helps us find any one of those artifact pieces that we may be missing, whether that's the sword, whether that's Thopter Foundry, maybe we need another Mirror Retriever, maybe we need that Ironworks, or maybe we just need a way to get into the late game and go find one of those pieces, not necessarily the common piece, because maybe we've already got assembled or close to assembled, and just helps us further that out. Path to Exile, cheap removal spell, especially if there is a creature on the board. Maybe Gurmag Angler gets out early and we're not able to keep that pressure off. We need to be able to take care of those big threats as efficiently as possible. So we got a couple of those Path to Exiles just to help that answer. Lastly, on our main deck, we finish out with our mana base. The artifact lands of Mirrodin are a key role in this deck for multiple purposes. One, they're gonna be the colors, our color fixing for this deck, for those 3 colors that we're required to. Secondly, they function well with our Aether Grid. 2 of those tapping allow us to deal 1 point of damage wherever we need. Early game, again, that's for controlling our creatures on the opposite side of the board. Late game, that hopes to close out the game itself. Also, in a pinch, we can turn those into a 1/1 thopter and gain 1 life. So, not ideal, but sometimes in the game you just need to be able to stall a little bit to get into one of those other pieces, and they can serve that function as well. Another one of those banned pieces in Modern, but not banned in Modern Lite due to the fact that we do not have a ban list. So we're going to see how powerful these artifact lands can be. So that takes care of our main deck. Let's jump over a little bit to our sideboard action. We're running 4 Ensoul Artifact, and that's just another way to help. Everyone's seen, well, I shouldn't say everyone, in the Modern Lite format, it's very popular, a deck where you play Ensoul Artifact on, say, an Ornithopter, Darksteel Citadel, something really early, and you can have a 5/5 attacker potentially on turn 2. Same with this deck. We're going to be able to hopefully power out a 5/5 on turn 2 attacking. What we're going to see quite a few times in our sideboard matches, at least game 2, we're going to see our opponent take out probably all of their removal that they may have had for the fact that they never saw a creature across that board. They're not going to be needing to point a lightning bolt or a fatal push at a 1/1 thopter. It's not going to be very efficient for them. They're going to want to remove that removal spell, possibly bring in something that's a little bit more proactive that allows them to either counter a spell or attack the hand with some potential cards like Inquisition Kozilek. Just kind of depends upon what colors. They're going to definitely want to, if they have any artifact removal, bring that in, and again take that removal suite out. So we're going to look to bring in 4 of our Ensoul Artifacts, and maybe we can get a quick win going that way. Second, we're going to find Muddle the Mixture. Muddle the Mixture gets to serve 2 functions in this deck. First, it's counterspell. 2 blue. Now, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but we do, from time to time, are going to need to be able to counter a spell potentially coming from their sideboard. Muddle the Mixture, again, it serves the function of a counterspell, but also it has a nice little feature called Transmute. Transmute is a keyword, it's an ability on that card that allows you to pay, in this case, 1 colorless and 2 blue, discarding Muddle the Mixture, and you get to go search your library for a card of equal converted mana cost, which in this case, Muddle the Mixture, is 2 converted mana costs. So in our deck, that allows us to go search any one of our combo pieces in Sword of the Meek, Thopter Foundry. Allows us to go find Mere Retriever if we're short on that. Really, that's the only 3 cards we're really looking for, and so it allows us to tutor for those as well as holding back potential counterspell ability. Next, we have a few other spells to round out our sideboard. Welding Jar allows us to protect any of our artifacts, which is pretty much all of our deck. In sideboard matches, it can help us protect our Ensoul Artifact. If we have that 5/5 out there early, we're going to want to be able to protect that, hopefully ride that into victory. So we have 3 Welding Jars to help protect pretty much our whole entire deck. We got a couple Whip Flares. Again, just like Pyroclasm, except it's one-sided in the fact that it ignores artifact creatures. So for some of those early Swarm decks, Green Menace, something along that lines, it allows us to hopefully slow that board progression down from our opponent. Next, we have 1 Wear Tear. What's great about this is allows us to hit an artifact, an enchantment, or both in one spell. And just that little bit of it's a little bit easier. I shouldn't say easier. There's a word I'm looking for and I just can't find it right now. So anyways, the ability to be able to have flexibility to be able to target your opponent's spells that they've probably brought in from their sideboard to target yours, such as an O-ring, just helps shore up potentially a weak spot that your deck has. We didn't want to bring in more than the one. That's why we have Vanishing Light there on the end. It also allows us to attack those permanents, but with just being one color, it's a little bit easier on a mana base that is potentially already a little tight. At worst case, we wouldn't want to have to sacrifice, a sphere or 2 spheres, a Terraria, and just be able to cast these spells. But we are able to do that, and that's why they are part of this deck as well. And then lastly, we got a couple dismembers to help. Again, that's that Gurmag Angler that we're going to probably see. It's going to be the biggest thing on that side of the board that we're going to want to worry against early on in the game. Hopefully, once we get our engine set up, we can help control that board, and those big threats, they get chumped by a 1/1 flying thopter pretty easily. From there, again, we just look kind of at our overall game plan. We're a control deck with a combo kill. We're able to control, hopefully, the board on both sides. We're able to control our opponent's draws, and we're able to control our draws. Another function we can potentially use, again, from that mill aspect, if we can control it well enough, we can mill our opponents out. It won't happen often. We use that mostly as a control element, but it also can be a win condition as well. So that's something to keep in mind when playing this deck. And that's kind of the sum of it. It's a very fun deck. It's 2 cards that I've really enjoyed playing over the years. And going forward, I kind of looked at, up to this point, I've played a lot of different decks, tried to play as many different decks as possible, but I haven't really tuned any decks yet. So there was a couple decks I picked out that I really wanted to tune and see, how far I could take it. And again, since this is one of the decks I really like these couple cards, I really like this strategy, so I really wanted to tune this deck and see how far I could take it. And as a little plug, this Saturday we have what is known as Magic Clash 2016. Many of you are not familiar with the Magic Clash, but for the few of you that have been fortunate enough to join one of those events, it's a fantastic event. Each year changes in its formats, but this year it's featuring Modern Lite. And that's why we're doing this deck tech today, to kind of gear up towards our Clash event coming up this Saturday. And hopefully this gives you kind of an idea of what you can expect if you're playing, or if you're looking forward to being able to join some of the other future events or start your own events. This gives you an idea of hopefully a deck that is, at this point I can tell you that it is I enjoy it. It's fun to play. It's also very powerful. It gives you a very good opportunity to play some good Magic, some longer games if you like that, and also a little bit on the chess side of things. So we'll see what happens. Again, check out our comments tab there for our introduction to Modern Lite video. Some really good information there. And as always, continue to check back on our channel for future Modern Lite content, as well as our other various series featuring Magic the Gathering. So with all that information, just want to thank you for joining me. Check us out again in the future. Appreciate all the support. Hopefully you guys have a great time in your future Magic endeavor, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks again. Alpha out.